here. I would like to give a huge thanks to everyone. Thank you for all the feedback. And that was part of what we were trying to do, to get as much feedback, as much inputs into the process. And we were hard at work since breakfast to try and incorporate as much of that as we could into the proposal. It's not a significant change from what you heard. The geographic dimension of the team structure, and some of the statements which we had to explain out, as in call out explicitly, because they needed some more explanation. So what we have done is we have gone ahead and incorporated this into the actual document that you have with you in the form of the team part now has, the team structure now also has those entries for the geographic groups, which were what you saw on the slides and what we discussed about yesterday. And we added a few FAQs in certain sections where, as in they were the most frequently asked questions. So it's kind of a pun, but it's fine. And we rephrased some statements in some cases where it was, we had a certain set of feedback where people were not sure what exactly we meant because of the words we used. So we rephrased those statements a bit just to be clear more explicitly. So along with that, what happened was George, Constantina, Deb, almost all of these people worked together to come up with a way that we can actually implement it, start implementing it, and figure out some ways in which we can take it forward so that it just does not remain a planning session, so that we actually end up doing something, which is what the activity is for the latter half of the session. And that will need a lot of involvement, and I'm pretty sure we'll get that. So I'll just quickly run you through what were the changes. I'll cover the to-dos later. Can we just go back? Okay. Yeah, so we are trying to discuss what are the revised proposals points. It's not much different except in the fundamental principles part, which is the rephrasing some statements. You see the last 2 points have sort of been elaborated instead of just being keywords. And I'll just read out for those who are remote. So we had ensure accountability. We just expanded that to ensure accountability through clear metrics and documentation of actions and decisions, just to be sure that what we are talking of being accountable about. And we said use flexible and adaptive structure, which keeps on improving itself through constant feedback and evaluation. Just to be a bit more explicit. FAQs, I'll ask Vinisha to cover. Before that, we also had a few changes to the statements in the organizational structure basics. If you look at the bullet points, there are some changes about what are the kind of team members that teams can strive to achieve. We also added the geographic groups in the hierarchy of the teams. And once again, I'll, at the cost of repeating myself, this is a functional kind of hierarchy. It doesn't mean that one meta team has many functional teams which has many focus teams, but when you look at the examples that George and Constantina and Deb have come up with, it will be clearer. But one important point that we added to the meta team, the last point that you see reads, the meta team is accountable to the community through a self-evaluation report at least once every 6 months, which kind of puts a good amount of responsibility on the meta team itself, so that things actually remain in a self-checking, as in self-evaluating manner. And yeah, that's what we had added. I'll just hand it over to Vinisha to explain the FAQs.
Thanks, Kaustubh. So, so what we would do is, like, we can see, like, we have added FAQs, like the common questions which we had, like yesterday people had asked. So can you just quickly go through the FAQs and see, like we'll give 5 minutes for that, and see that if you still understand that, or you need more explanation to it. So you get just 5 minutes for this, and then we'll go forward. Okay.
We just took a direct printout.
A picture would do. No, we are sharing a picture.
Guys, sorry, I was wrong. We actually gave a PDF out to Umesh. He has it on a pen drive, so I'll just ask him to share it on the Telegram group as well. Yeah, sorry. What happened? Lights? Yeah. As in the people in front would be.
Okay, I hope everyone has gone through the FAQs. So if you think that we have missed something, you get 10 seconds to flag it. And this is not a longer discussion. We'll have another discussion after the session. Yeah. Anyone? So we have no flags, right? We are good with this. Yes? Yes, no, maybe? Yes? Guys, come on, we need an answer. Yes? Okay. No, anyone? Any no's? Maybe? Okay. Okay, so George, over to Kaustav.
Okay, sorry for hurrying you through that part, because as I said, there will be more stuff to do after this. So we'll go through larger question and answers, longer question and answers after this. Now, once again, I'll just read it out because the camera is not looking there. So what George, we all that were trying to come up with the proposal, we thought that, okay, we need some things to do from these proposals, come up to an action plan eventually. And what we figured out is that we are looking at some short term and some relatively longer term goals that we would want to achieve. So within a month, we would like to do is have our communication channels refined and start implementing that, or have already implemented that. By communication channels, we mean the part where we would request all the community to listen in, and anyone who's doing something publishes there. So to have that infrastructure decided and up and running. Establishing first focus teams. So we want our initial set of focus teams to start functioning. And a lot of the questions we received yesterday were around the transition. That is, how do we move from the way we were already operating to the one that we are proposing? So take this as part of that question as well. We also want to finalize operational specifications and membership of functional teams. I'll break it down for you. What we are talking of is we want functional teams, as in the teams which have already been identified, and we are going to work on those. But we want for those functional teams, each of them, to have their requirements, as in what are the skill sets someone needs to have as part of, to be a part of that functional team. Some self-checks that the team explicitly identifies that these are the things that we need to keep on doing from time to time. And this is going to be team specific. And some onboarding process for the team, which can differ significantly from one team to other. So having clear answers to all of these for each of the functional teams that we form. Then bringing this new structure / strategy to the broader Mozilla India community. And I would really like to emphasize that we here are just representing a really broader community who are not here right now. And we need to take this out and once again take it out to them and get everyone involved with the structure, with the processes that we are proposing. And that's very important to ensure that it does not end here, that it actually continues, it grows organically after this. And we will try to come up with a provisional meta team. So one of the questions we had, as in one of the repeating questions we had, is how will you form the meta team? Who will be part of the initial meta team? The thing is, we don't want to lock on it right now, but we want to build a transient structure where an initial set of people take up the ownership. They say that, yeah, we are accountable to help the community build a meta team. And there are some criteria that we have come up with for the meta teams onboarding. We'll discuss that later on. But what we're talking of is have a few people currently head the provisional meta team or be a part of that. And their goal, much like the goal of the working groups which were formed to get this meetup done or to get this structure done, is they are the ones who accept that they are publicly accountable to ensure that a proper meta team with proper objectives and everything, all self checks in place is formed, preferably within a month. But that can probably spill over, but we'll try to get that started. The provisional meta team is something we'll want to get out of this meetup itself. And we'll talk more about that. And in 6 months, we want to have a proper reporting system in place, which means that we want kind of efficient data collection. We want to have proper reports, a way to file all the data that we are talking of, so that we can actually convert the process that we are saying to a data-driven model. So that we are working around metrics, we can flag things which we don't see proper, and we can take better decisions based on what we get out of that system. So that might sound fairly ambitious, and it is fairly ambitious, and it's not going to be possible for just a few of us to do together. So what we are putting out is a sort of request for helping the broader community with this. And as part of the exercise that we'll do in the later half of the session, it will be clearer about how each of you can plug into multiple places and help with this process. George, next one. Which one's next? Okay. Oh, so over to George. Oh, we'll do the Q&A before we head there? Okay, cool. Sorry. So, with this to-do and with the changes that you already see in the proposal in front of you, and if anybody did not get a chance to look at it, please grab or snatch it from your team member who's been holding on to it and read it so that everyone's on the same page. We'll, yeah, it's on the Telegram as well, so please go through it. And if anyone has any questions based on whatever we have changed, ask it out now. Yes?
Are functional teams supposed to be proposed, or they are already been?
So the question is, are functional teams supposed to be proposed? I suppose you mean by the people here, or do we already have a structure, as in, have we already identified what functional teams need to be there?
Yeah,
And new ones. So George is going to talk a bit about that after this. So just hold on. Yes? Yeah.
The initial answer to that is we're going to establish a set of functional teams today. There'll be the initial set. We'll also establish a very, very small list of only 4 focus teams today. And then part of the job of the meta team over the next month or so is to figure out how new functional teams, the process for proposing new functional teams. So.
Yeah.
There are focus teams and functional teams. For a newbie, it's a home for confusion. How to develop for? Is there a way we can differentiate functional teams and focus teams by hearing the name? So maybe some naming conventions.
You mean that, so the question is for a newcomer, someone who's trying to get started contributing, it might be very confusing to hear that, hey, there are functional teams, there are focus teams, so which one should I be part of it? So is there a clear way of describing what a functional team or a focus team should be named, or are we following certain conventions to ensure that there is no confusion? I would say yes. And it would be clearer once we go to the next phase. So once again, please hold on for a while. Yeah, of course. So I'm sorry, but in case there is a suggestion that you have, you can also, of course, put it out. I did not mention that explicitly, but that's what I was expecting through the Q&A. Yep.
We have planned out some events, right? So for the next month or next 2 months, next 3 months. So we would have requested for some support from Mozilla, and some events would have already been planned. How do those events, should those events adhere to this structure, or do they go on as planned, or what is the plan? What is the
Okay, so the question is, we already have a few events planned for the next quarter or so, and there is already, I guess, some budget requests and everything which are in process. So does that mean that those events have to adhere to this structure? Well, I would say the short answer is, if it feels like this structure is a blocker to that, and you have already initiated something which already works, go ahead. But that should be a feedback back to this process that, hey, we were trying to do what we thought was good enough for us, and the structure that we have did not solve X, Y, and Z. So can we incorporate this into the process so that we can also handle a transition like that? So that's a feedback that we need to hear back. Should it follow the structure? I would say if you have already planned it, if you're already proposing, as in it's already in motion, you have already started campaigning, you've already put budget requests. So, okay.
So, where do you see having challenges into that process? Like, if you are having some event. No, my question is, which challenges you think you'll be having unless something is in here that is constructed, finalized. Okay, so that's what. This does not limit you from having like any event and like getting reps budget and stuff like that. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, zero limitation. Like you already planned it. The structure is to enable you not to actually, not to actually like imprison you in a structure that you need to follow, and then you need to think like reps are there to help you to do your stuff. So this is a structure to actually, you can speak with the rest of the functional teams. So what I would suggest to you, like go ahead and do your stuff, but in order to actually coordinate with the rest, that's why we have the functional teams, right? In order to coordinate with the people that, for example, are doing advocacy. So how will I be able to coordinate with the people? I'm going to the functional team inside the Mozilla India. I'm saying, hey, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna ask the reps to help me. How you can help me too, guys? So it's no limitation. It's actually enabling you to help you there, and it shouldn't constrain you in any way.
The last part is very, very important. The system is there, like structure is there to help you achieve more, not restrict you from achieve more.
Yeah, and in case it ends up restricting, which is what I was trying to say, ensure that you also flag it or speak it up. Yes. One more? Okay, we can take one more question before we move on. Is there anything that you want to ask anyone? Yes? Can you speak it out loud? So I get your point. I don't get what's the question that you're asking, but I'll try to. So how will the functional? Yeah, sorry. I'll try to form that into a question and also an example. I understand, but I'll kind of need to resonate whether we are understanding the same thing. So what you're saying is, if we are doing an event, let's take that as an example. If we are doing an event in a particular town, and that event is about a focus area, let's say we are trying to do a maker party in a particular area of Pune, which has got some sensitive local or political issues which only the locals are aware of. How will functional team actually have that information and actually come in or help with a situation like that? How will things sync in the sense that how will functional teams get access to the local part? So the answer to that is that functional teams are essentially formed of people who belong to certain regions, who are from certain places. The course of action in that case will be, if a functional team, let's say, I'm just saying, if we have a team which focuses on web literacy and Maker Party is a focus area in there, and you want to organize a Maker Party in, say, a particular area in Pune, you can reach out to the people in Pune that you know who are interested in doing Maker Party, or even if there is no one in Pune who's interested in doing Maker Party, you'll have some people who you can reach out and get information from. So that's a sort of outward action that functional teams need to perform. Okay.
If you want to reach, if the problem is the focus teams, they want help that is more region focused, then there are regional teams that can help them out with. If that is more of a functionality or strategy focused, then functional team can help out with that. When the focus teams are formed, it's not that they're under some functional team, or they're not under some geographic team groups or something of that sort. It's not that they're under their hierarchy or waterfall of some sort. They are a bunch of people who are getting something done. If they want a particular kind of help from a particular set of functional team or teams, they just reach out to them and get that help. And if that problem is local or regional, there are regional teams for that. That's why we have that extra regional team also created in that structure.
Yeah, I think the thing that you're trying to address will probably come up when we look at the kind of functional teams and focus teams that we're talking of, which is what George would be talking right next. So maybe you can hold on to the question, see if you can come up with a better phrasing of that so that we can address it clearly. And George, well, did anyone see George? Yeah, so we have a few questions around the teams, which will, I think, be cleared once you go through the process. So over to you.
Awesome. Great. Okay, so thanks, guys. One of the things that we realize is that we need the meta team to be operating right from the beginning, because the meta team is really going to be largely responsible for helping figure out the operational realities and dynamics of the community. And the challenge is, it's sort of a chicken and an egg problem, because part of the job of the meta team will be figuring out how you get on and off the meta team. But if you don't have people on that to begin with, then you can't actually figure out that process. So what we needed was a provisional team that would be able to approach this. So the way we went at this was, we started asking ourselves first, what are some criteria of the meta team that would form it? So we don't have a great final answer, but let me just read our brainstorm that we're able to, I think, synthesize in the next couple of days. So the criteria were strong opinions about process, able to articulate process clearly, either in writing or talking. They understand sensitivity around both issues and process. They're empathetic and introspective related to that. That they're analytical, that they're enthusiastic, that they're open in sort of their mind, and that they're also quite transparent. That they're as objective as possible, or able to at least identify when they're not being objective or biases they bring to the table. That they need to have relationships globally with communities and staff that are already formed. So they already have some kind of identity globally within the Mozilla community. They are comfortable being accountable and being held accountable, and have a track record of being very public about being held accountable. So maybe it's by blogging about their failures or by talking about what they've accomplished or not accomplished. They have experience or expertise in thinking and working on cross Mozilla India teams. So that this wouldn't be the first cross Mozilla team they would be on. So they have some experience in that. And then finally, they need to have time, because the idea is that this is probably at minimum 10 hours a week, and potentially more than that. So those were the broad criteria. And we started asking, could we establish a group now and figure out the mechanics? And we said, actually, that feels too early. And what we need to do instead is go to a provisional team and then move from that to a final team within 2 months. So the idea is a provisional meta team that exists for 2 months, from now until October 31st. And that's composed of the Indian council members, reps council members. So that's Shahid, Faisal, and Umesh, plus the folks who have been working on the strategy and structure team already right now. So in this case, it's Deb, Venetia, Pratamesh, Vinil, Kostov, Akshay, and myself. And the concept around that is we asked ourselves, why is that decent? And what we think the Indian Council members do is they give some legitimacy on representation because of the way that council members are selected. The addition of Kostov and Akshay to the strategy and structure team was based on how active they were in the planning and process over the past month. So we think that adding those people indicates interest and passion and ability to think about these issues and be accountable for them. And then having the other members of the team came from a process of the planning meetup that was at the very least geographically representative within Mozilla India. Not probably a perfect selection process or as ideal as the one that we just had for this meetup, but not bad. And so we felt like this was a pretty good initial provisional team to be able to, and some of you at the back probably can't see the final points, but to be able to come up with basically 3 major things. One is support the creation of functional and focus teams over the next 2 months and support their setup. The second is build out how the meta team is going to work, so the operational specifications, and then build out a process for establishing the longer term membership of the meta team. So that's kind of the initial work plan of the meta team for the next 2 months, the provisional meta team for the next 2 months. So why don't I stop there? I think it's a tricky thing. When you don't have a team and you need a team to create a team, you have to come up with something. So we felt like this was a pretty good stab, but we'd like to get some quick questions on that, any clarifications. And if you have this is terrible, hear this, we'd like to hear that now. We'd like to probably move forward with this, but if there's really major disagreement, that needs to be voiced. So, any quick thoughts or questions, clarifications? All right, magic. Great, we have lots of work to do. Cool, so these are that's the provisional meta team. So let's talk about functional teams. So first of all, thank you all for the work that you did yesterday, because it was absolutely crucial to get to a point where we have an initial list of functional teams and a short list of focus teams, and I'll talk a little bit about that. So first of all, I'm standing here, but it was really Konstantina who did the bulk of the work, and Deb and I kind of came in at the end and helped. So thanks to Konstantina for doing the heavy lifting on going through a lot of information and trying to compile it and to get a sense of where the energy was and ideas were. So first of all, we did a little bit of grouping here. And you'll notice that these functional teams don't really look like the old task forces. And so we want to explain that and try and do some mapping of where stuff fits, because it may not be obvious. So what I'll do is I'll try and explain that really fast, and then I'll take clarification questions. But we want to go with these 10 to start, and knowing that adding and removing functional teams, or at least adding them and changing them is pretty easy. So it's not like insanely hard. So we'd like to kind of go with this, and the reason is because we want to get some work done today. And so we need a set to work on. So I'm hoping everybody can kind of have enough acceptance of these that we can move forward with them. So the first one is called Mature Technology and Products. So does anybody guess what might fall in there? Firefox and Gecko and our platform. So we have a product. It's being used by consumers. It is mature. And the reason we separated that from future technology and products, which I'll talk about in a second, is because the processes on mature products and technology, the tool sets, the contribution pathways, the people are all different. And so isolating that and getting that team to really think about how do we get more contributions and valuable contributions there felt like a really hard and great problem to solve. Second one, future technology and products, is a big bucket of a lot of things, but I think is exciting. But they're all really similar in that they're in their early stages. They're all probably, so this would be things like WebVR and Rust and Servo and connected devices like IoT experiments and any other sort of research project or early stage project. One of the things you'll know there is like most of those, for example, are on GitHub, and versus on the mature ones, all of those are in Bugzilla. So like you can start to see the separation and the difference. So these two are meant to be very much technical teams. So working on contributing in these areas in mostly technical ways. What you'll notice is things like QA and bug reporting and that type of thing are actually not called out anywhere else. They're in those areas. So they're embedded in those technical functional teams. The next two, developer engagement and evangelism. You've heard lots from Bradley this last couple days about a ton of amazingly exciting stuff there and some awesome opportunities I think there are. So isolating that and putting very specific kind of brain power against that felt like a really good time for Mozilla. It's a big priority for Mozilla and something that we can do. The next one, advocacy and policy. Again, how many of you were in an of our session earlier? Okay, a few of you. Cool. So, like again, a big area of investment for Mozilla is advocacy and policy, and it's a place where this community has had a lot of success already, and can probably have much more success in the future. The next one is marketing and brand, specifically to consumers, and so the concept here, and it's not exclusively in the sense that it's probably also marketing functions for Mozilla India, but to the extent that it's focused on Mozilla products or technology, it's for consumer marketing and users. So an example there would be social media. Mozilla's social media efforts would fall within that marketing team. Some of another example would be Sumo, which is a user community and a user support community. So it connects with marketing, and in Mozilla structure, it's in the marketing team. So that's where user communities and user engagement fits as well. So end user, consumers. The next one is Mozilla Leadership Network hubs. So many of you have heard of the change to the Mozilla Leadership Network from learning. And the way that that's structured is there's a number of hubs there. And we felt that Mozilla India should have something of parallel as a functional team. So for example, Mozilla Science is part of that. Mozilla, or web literacy, women in web literacy is part of that. Learning and teaching on the web, that's part of that. So it is a nice marrying and maps really well to Mozilla staff teams, and so we'll have a natural place to get support. Next one is Mozilla Campus Clubs. Again, we were considering whether or not to isolate this or to put it into some of the other places. So Mozilla Campus Clubs, for those of you who are in the session, you'll know there's a technology track, there's a teaching track, teaching and learning track, and there's a advocacy track. So the question was, well, should we just leave it up to those other functional teams, or should we create its own? And we decided to create its own because campuses are so important. University and college campuses are so important in this community. And if we didn't get the type of kind of very high amount of support and strategic thinking from this community on that, it wouldn't make sense. It would be a bit weird. And so having a functional team there that then connects with the staff group makes a lot of sense. The next one is localization. And this is definitely like traditional product localization, and we need to engage with the localization team to figure out how they want to connect with this. But importantly, I would say it's also about kind of the future of localization. And for me, that might be localizing marketing and branding campaigns. That might be localizing advocacy, and that might be localizing teaching materials. And really, it's not so much about just translation, but also really understanding what will work in this cultural context and how we start to think about the future of localization in Mozilla India. The last two are a little bit more foundational. So there's one, and you probably can't see it at the back, called community. And that's thinking about what does the health of the community look? How is it growing? Where is it growing? And we asked ourselves, do we need this because we have the meta team? But we thought, again, this is so important that having a team that's thinking about how healthy is the community? How are they communicating with one another? How are people being invested in? How are they learning about these subjects? Is that happening? What's the state of diversity? What's the state of inclusion? How are our values doing? Those are the types of things that really fit into the community team. And then finally, the operations and infrastructure team. So it's the other side of community. So it's the stuff like, what communication channels are we using, and are those strong, and do they work? Is the website up? Does the wiki work? It's things like what Kostov talked about. I don't know where Kostov is. What Kostov talked about earlier around having a very strong reporting system and portal that's able to draw metrics. We need somebody to build it and maintain it and look after it. So it's really the infrastructure and the operations that allows the community to work. So these two pieces are very much foundational to the community's function. Something like, as well, documentation would be in the operations and infrastructure team. So those are the functional teams. Again, their purpose is to be persistent over a period of time and to really be able to deliver against areas of importance for the success of the Mozilla community. The focus teams are only temporary, and they're tactical in nature versus strategic. So their job is to get something done now, and they're relevant now. And so we're proposing these four mainly as a way to work on stuff today, rather than saying these are the only four. So we probably could have done a process of getting people to propose focus teams or getting functional teams to propose that. We just don't have time today. So instead what we're doing is just doing a little bit of like let's work on these four and realize that we still have lots of time to do work after this meetup. So these four very briefly came from active campaigns that are out there right now and that have at least a little bit of staff support. Or some context there to work within. So Maker Party, some of you know about, but it's launching in September, running through November. It's all about creativity and copyright. and really reaching people with fun activities. Grow Web VR. How many of you were in Web VR sessions today or this weekend? It's awesome. And we need more people using it. We need more people contributing to it. We need more people talking about it. So there's an opportunity for the Mozilla India community to really get involved in growing that in India. Web compatibility sprint. How many of you were in the web compatibility session today? Cool. So like super neat tools. Mozilla's putting a big push behind it. It's very important for the health of the internet. It's also important to our products. And right now we have a series of activities and events that have been co-built by the participation team and the developer marketing team that allow people to hold web compatibility events and really kind of contribute to that area. So it's a really natural one. Question is, how do we get that scaled in India over the next little while? And then the final one, how many of you were in Rust sessions this weekend? So I heard lots of excitement about Rust. I think the interesting thing from Manish, I heard he was surprised that people really wanted to learn Rust, not just hear about Rust, like actually start working in Rust. And we've heard that a lot. And we've co-built with some folks from the Rust team, Brian on the Rust team, an event that introduces people to the early stages of diving in and building Rust. And so that's a really well-described thing. And again, something to work on right now that I think has a lot of energy. It's really fun and it can get people involved. So we took these today. Again, they're just for today in the sense that many more can be added. Focus teams can be added. The neat thing that you'll notice, and this is a good demonstration of what a focus team is, that any of these focus teams map to more than one functional team. So Maker Party, for example, will map to advocacy and policy. It will map to Mozilla Leadership Network hubs, and it will map to Mozilla Campus clubs at least. And so the idea there, again, is focus teams aren't one-to-one relationships. They're things to get done that will draw on multiple functional teams. So the functional teams will need to get together to make sure that that is successful. Adds complication, but hopefully also adds fidelity and an ability to get bigger stuff done in a coordinated manner. Let me stop and, no slide, and see if there's questions or comments on this. And to give you a sense, what are we going to do now? We are basically going to get ourselves into these teams for the purpose of working on this stuff from now until 5:20 p.m. The people paying attention to the schedule, I just changed the schedule. 5:20 p.m. 5:20 p.m.? It's okay. Okay, great. 5:20 p.m. So from now until roughly now, not quite now, but until 5:20 p.m. we'll be working on these. It will be like you showing your interest in it, but we still need to figure out how to actually form the membership of these teams. So we're not doing that today. We're starting that process today, but we're not finalizing that today. So just to give you a sense of how we're using this is to get going today. Questions, comments, thoughts, ideas? Yeah.
So my question was about these initial two groups basically. So we will have different technologies in these groups. So this is a good way to categorize things and not to have so many functions. But one complication I see here is that let's say there will be one or two leaders also. So they need to know about all of these different things. And let's say in the second one, the one who is leading will have to know about Rust. At the same time, he'll have to know about the web VR and other different things. So if one person is just interested in one particular area and but the group is containing all of them together, so I just see one thing as making it quite complicated. If it was just one single per technology, that becomes a different environment, and that gives a different feeling, like, okay, if I am part of this group and I know everyone in the group, like that. So
cool.
And I think
really good point. So if we bucket all of these technologies together, for example, in future technology and products, that makes potentially discoverability, or it makes it harder to manage that for that functional team. is I think part of the point. First of all, there's no leaders of these. So that's an important point. There's facilitators of these teams. And the point of the facilitator is to figure out what the team structure should look like and make sure that it works to support the community. And so part of that, I think, in the future technology and products may be saying, actually, this functional team is a bunch of different sub-functional teams. And we don't need to make that an official structure. You can actually just make that a structure within that team. And so, there's a MozVR, there's a whatever, or WebVR, sorry. There's a WebVR, there's a Rust, et cetera, et cetera. And you can have leaders within that, or product leaders or technology leaders and what have you. So it's really open to however those teams want to be structured. But the value is if a contributor comes and they're like, hey, I really want to work on a new tech, they can come and say, and go to this page and say, oh wow, here's a bunch of different new technologies. So it's also thinking a little bit about how is a person, a human being, going to want to come to this community? How are they going to want to get involved? And obviously, we're trying this. It may not work. And if we, let's give ourselves permission to change it if it's not working, right?
So what if person is a part of, what if a person can be a part of both? Sorry, I'm audible. So what if a singular person can be a part of
Yeah, so we talked about that. Obviously, somebody can contribute to multiple functional teams.
Check.
But for the actual functional team membership themselves, the idea is that one person will be on one team, not as a rule, but as like a guideline. And part of the reason is we see the members of these functional teams, not so much the people working on the stuff within them, but the members of those will be quite busy even just with one functional team. So the idea is one person is on one functional team. If you want to be on two, there's no rule against it, but the encouragement is to be on one, even if you're contributing to multiple.
To add to that, it also allows more people to be part of those teams instead of hogging those places, right? Hogging the spots. Anybody else?
Yeah. So am I audible? Hello? Yeah. So I was thinking in an event perspective. So I would like Mozilla campus clubs and future technology products, both the functional team to work together in order to make a successful event where the Mozilla campus clubs team may be planning out an event, and then they need a particular tech speaker who has been working in that particular domain. So how does that work? How do functional team work between them to successfully help a focus team connect a particular event? So that's, do you take my question?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So a focus team, again, is not so much for a single event. It's more for a campaign or a series of events. So, Maker Party is a good example, or Dive into Rust. So the concept is the materials behind Dive into Rust are a series of things together. And so the concept is that the functional teams will say, hey, we need these, and we need, or they might be, a focus team might be proposed in one of the functional teams or by somebody else. And they'll say, hey, we need these 3 functional teams to be involved. And the idea then is that those functional teams figure out what support is needed from the functional team, and they provide that support. So in the case of Dive into Rust, maybe the future technology and products team, all they need from that team is the right contact at on Mozilla staff. And that's all the support. Oh, maybe what they need is to be able to be connected with the various different people in existing Rust communities within Mozilla. So it's very much a whatever those focus teams need from the functional teams, they can ask them. So the functional teams, their purpose is to serve and to help people be more active and set goals for the community. Cool. Other questions or comments? Yeah, Anavar.
While looking at the first two things, there are two contribution areas. One is code contribution, other is a review. So how we separate these two set of different qualities into among these? That's one first question. Second is on Mozilla Leadership Network, as per June, yeah, there is Internet and Policy Hub also existing in Leadership Hub, and there is advocacy and policy coming separately. So how this will work together? And another thing is there is learning network separately on the Leadership Network, and campus clubs is here separate. Hive and all those kind of programs is still not addressed. So, and still the community part, how the community group will function is not clear for me. That's the third part.
This is a very interesting question. George, would you wanna?
Yeah, so for the code and review separation, I think the hypothesis that we want to test here, and we need to revisit it probably 6 months from now, is that code and review on Firefox are more similar than code on Firefox and code on WebVR, are more similar to one another than code on Firefox and code on WebVR and review on Firefox and review on WebVR. That's the hypothesis we're testing by bucketing them together. And part of it is because of the tools, because of the people, because of the reviews. So, and that's also mirroring a little bit of Mozilla's existing structures at a staff level. I think that I don't know if the hypothesis is true. Like, it's a reasonable one. That's why we're testing it. But I think we need to ask ourselves, is it working 6 months from now? So, good point. On the advocacy, Mozilla actually has the same problem as a staff level. So there's an advocacy team and there's an advocacy hub. So we need to, I don't know how we'll resolve that, but we'll need to do some work. But advocacy is getting sufficient, I think, importance in this community that I think highlighting it is really crucial. And then finally, Mozilla Campus Clubs is more than about teaching. It's very much like multiple different things. I think Mozilla Campus Clubs will have to connect with other functional teams in general. So there's a technology track, for example, in Mozilla Campus Clubs. It will have to interact with the two technology functional teams in order to really find out what's going on.
Two quick comments. One is this Mozilla Science also linked with campus clubs in a major way. So
In a roundabout way as well. Yeah.
So that's another conflicting area I'm seeing, and another is in the policies, more like for me it's more like a focus team. The advocacy can be a common functional team, but at the same time policy I see more as a focus team because it's mostly need based. Yeah.
So your proposal might be to remove policy from that. So one of the things we're going to do is split up. And the work that we're going to do today is a bit of what do we want to accomplish over the next 6 months. It's also a bit refining the scope. So that is like, if you think the articulation of the team isn't quite right when we split up now, do an edit. And that's the type of edit that's like, it's important, but it's like better done within that team. So, cool.
Also, his community part of the question, like.
Oh yeah. That's another thing. Like, I think part of the job is to figure that out. One of the places this came from is Manish here? No. Anyway, he was telling us a little bit about the Rust community and how it's structured. And he said that they kind of went back and forth on whether to have a community team and eventually landed on one, and it's been very, very helpful to be able to make sure that the community is working well. And so I think there's an opportunity to learn about what their scope is and to try this out. And I think the part of the work today is to figure out the scope of that team.
And to add to that, it was actually a pretty detailed and long conversation over there as well to figure out those parts out, and probably we're actually discussing the same thing over all of.
Okay, so I'm going to call that the last question. Here's going to be the fun part. So first of all, Can you guys just make sure every table has some Post-it notes? Here we go. So we'll need, can you put up your hand if your table has no Post-it notes? You won't need a massive number. We're only going to need 2 Post-it notes per person. Can you help me line these up? Just by, oh, this table?
यहाँ बीच में रखना है.
Okay, so here's what you're going to do. On your 2 Post-it notes, you're going to take a look at, this list of teams. And you're going to ask yourself, which am I excited to work on for the rest of the day? And which might I be excited to work on for the next, let's say, few months, okay? And what you're going to do is this is going to be a really hard one. You're going to write your name on 2 different Post-it notes. Not hard. So what do I mean by that? So let's say my name is George. I would take 1 Post-it note and I'd write George on it. I'd take a second Post-it note and I'd write George on it. So you will have 2 Post-it notes and they will both have your name on them. And then when I say go, what we are going to do is, in a mass of chaos, we are going to come up to the front and you're going to find the bag that has the team that you are interested in working on today. And you can pick up to 2 because you have 2 Post-it notes with 2 names. And you're going to put your name into the bag. Up to 2 bags. Yes, I will repeat this again. So, by now you probably have 2 Post-it notes, and each of them has your name on them, right? Everybody? Almost? Great. You will try to figure out what you want to work on out of these 14 different functional or focus teams for the end of the day. When I say go, you will run up to this table, which has 14 bags on it. Each of those 14 bags has a different team written on it. So I'll show you. For example, this one has Grow Web VR written on it. If you want to be working on Grow Web VR, you will put your name into this bag, one of your names. So you can choose up to 2 bags because you have 2 Post-it notes with 2 names. Is that clear? Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? No questions. We know what we're going to do. Yes. So there are bags for both functional teams and focus teams. And again, it's just for today. It's to work on today. Yeah. Up to 2. If you put in 2 names to 1 bag, that is good. That is okay. Okay? If you really want one and you just want one and you want to put it into 1 bag, that's cool. No problem. Any final questions? Does everybody clear about what each of the teams is? All right. Are we ready with the bags? Are we ready with the bags? The bags are ready. Okay, go. Don't kill one another. And I need 2 people. I need 2 people who have computers to help me out after this. And then I need 5 more people to help process these.
The ones in the front are the focus teams. the last two rows are functional teams.
And those who have the two people who have a computer and who want to help out, just come up here to this table. Awesome. Fire up your computer. And then I need about another 5 people who are good at reading other people's handwriting. And then there's going to be now it's going to take us about 7 to 10 minutes to process this. So you can come back in this room in like 5 minutes. I think we're good. Does everybody have? Do you guys want to sit? It's probably easier if you guys sit at the table. Sorry. Has everybody put their names in? Anybody remaining to put their name in? Okay. Hey guys, can you just keep the volume down because it's hard to hear without.
লোকে জানবে বলুন আবার বলুন যে সেটেল ডাউন কি বলুন কি বলবো আমার কর্তব্য তো আপনাকে দিয়ে বলানো বলুন বলুন রেজাল্ট প্রায় লিস্ট প্রায় রেডি হয়ে যাচ্ছে আর 10 সেকেন্ডের মধ্যে আমরা আসছি প্লিজ সেটেল বলুন 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 লোকে জানবে
Guys, please settle down. We are coming up with a list within 10 seconds. Guys, please settle down. Guys, please settle down.
ও বাড়ি যাচ্ছে
Hello.
I put it in network hub and development. It's a leadership hub. I saw it. I read it out for developer engagement. No, but I picked it up and I read it out.
Let me count the names to make sure that everyone.
I think it's okay. We can read it out and people can say if their name is in there. Okay, we need everyone back in. Right away, right away, right away. I think it's okay. There's a lot of people focusing on the screen. I think it's okay.
They were saying to clarify.
I don't know how to clarify. It's just to. Okay, can everybody sit down? And can somebody close the blinds behind there? Just so that we see the screen? How do I close this? Etherpad is so annoying sometimes. Okay, can everybody sit down, please? Otherwise we really can't get going for the rest of the day, and we really don't have that much time left. And there's a fair amount of work to do. Can somebody give me a time check? What time is it right now?
It's 4:25.
4:25. Okay, everyone sit down. Close the blinds. Sit down. All right. Pardon me? No. This is going to take 10 seconds. Or very, very quick. Okay, so your job is, can everybody see the screen? Put your hand up if you cannot see the screen and read names off the screen. Put your hand up if you cannot see the screen or read names. How? It doesn't hide. Okay, don't worry about it right now. Okay, sorry? Okay, so here's what you need to do. is I'm going to scroll through, and your job is to make sure your name is there. And if your name is not there, to just keep that to yourself for now. And if your name is there twice, keep that to yourself for now. So this process didn't have 0 errors. We didn't have a parity checker in it. But the reason that you put in 2 was because we basically we went through them in sequence, and we basically had people pulling out of each envelope in series. And if we came across a duplicate, then we threw it out. But if we didn't, then we put that person in to that group. And so the reason we did 2 was to make sure that there was enough coverage across all of the teams, so that at least all of the teams has a few people in it. So that's why there were 2 votes. So very quick, these are going to be the teams that you're working in for today. So I'm going to scroll. Whoops, and you can tell me if I'm scrolling too fast.
Is it visible for people sitting in the back? Can it be on Telegram? Okay.
And sorry for the bad spelling. Okay, do you guys need me to go through that again? Yes? I'm going to copy it into Telegram as well.
Yes. Thank you. I'll just do that.
Please do not edit it accidentally or otherwise in Telegram. Don't mess with it. How?
Click on the star.
Okay, thank you. All right, here we go. I'm going to go through it faster this time. Okay, there we go. How close are we to getting those blinds closed? All right, not. Cool. Okay, so back to the teams. Can you guys see this okay from the back? Yeah, you're okay? Okay, good. So here's what we're going to do. We have exactly 1 hour. That's not a lot of time. What we are going to do is we're going to break up. And so first of all, don't worry. For those of you who did not find your name or for whom there's a mistake, I will get to you momentarily. Just remember that. What we are going to do for the next 1 hour, which is not a lot of time, is try and get through as much of this as possible. So what you're going to very quickly do is find your team. That will be hard. It will be chaotic, but you're going to do that in like 1 minute or less. So, not right now, not right now. Wait. I love the spirits, nice spirits. Good, Santosh. Yes. Just like that. That's what you're going to do, but not right this second. Whoa. Awesome. It's like I planted him. Okay, cool. So once you find your team, you're going to find a space to work on this floor of the hotel, only in this room, which is a massive room, or in one of the 3 boardrooms. 2 boardrooms? 2 boardrooms. 2 boardrooms, in one of the 2 boardrooms. So those are your options, okay? And what you're going to do is try and go through, first of all, what are the operational specifications? So mainly, like, what is the purpose of this team? So what's it supposed to be doing? What's its scope? So you should write this down. You should write down the things that you need to do. Or take a snap. So what's the scope? What are the responsibilities? How is it going to work? The second is, what are the goals of this team, do you think, for the next 6 months? So what do you want it to achieve, and how will you know that it was successful? What do you want it to achieve, and how will you know that it was successful? So if I were in Dive into Rust, for example, it might be, what I want to achieve is we have a really kind of broad interest in Rust by 6 months from now, with lots of people in the community having learned it, and there being lots of demand for it. And how will I know if I was successful? We will have done 50 Dive into Rust events that involved 200 people or something along those lines. That's how I know if I'm successful. So we got that distinction. The next one is, what are the immediate next steps and who should do it? So you're actually assigning work in this group. So while you will not join this functional team necessarily for now until forever, you will be kind of doing some stuff with it over the next couple of weeks to help it get off the ground. So that next step might be, we need to write this down and communicate it. It might be, we need to refine the goals. It might be, we need to tell people, like, these are the key events for the next period of time. It might be, we need to get in touch with, Bradley to find out about web compatibility and what's coming up with it so that we can do some really cool stuff. So a bunch of different options there. The last one is, you need to be able to give a 3-minute presentation back to the whole meetup. And that will happen at around 6:15. And what I would suggest is, while we all love being equal, and we all love the opportunity to kind of stand up there together, to make sure it's only 3 minutes, just pick 1 or maybe 2 people from your group who will represent your group and give that presentation, okay? And the work of that presentation is to talk about what this group is about, what this team is about, okay? Any questions on the work that you have to do over the next 1 hour? Okay. Okay, we're good? So one last thing is, when you come back, I will not be here. I will be on a plane. So it was amazing. You guys are absolutely phenomenal. What you have done here this weekend is like really heavy lifting, really, really hard work. And I'm like deeply appreciative from like the bottom of my heart that the work you do makes this organization absolutely stronger.
And I think we should thank George for his involvement. Sorry. Okay. So I think we should thank George for his involvement and the effort that he gave to make sure that everything is done properly. Like, he has really given a lot of his efforts, and he's still not tired. I don't understand how, but we should really appreciate that and give a big round of applause for George. Yeah, definitely. It's not only George. Constantina, Bradley, and there are lots of other people who are not in, who were not initially part of Mozilla India community, but now they are here. They are guests, but they have actually worked a lot, and we really should. Yeah. Can we have them here? Constantina, Bradley, Dietrich. Yeah. Who else am I missing? No, I don't think so. Bradley's here. He's here, but we can appreciate that he's here. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot to all of you for all of your efforts, and we are really thankful.
Thanks, everyone. Okay,
Thanks all.
do good work.
I think we have a lot of love for them on the wall of appreciation, so please take your envelopes for you.
Okay, thank you. What would be amazing is if I hear about some awesome work you did over the next hour when I get back home. So go do that. Oh yeah, you're gonna go find a place to work with your group. Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. So can you now start finding your